Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be providing a bit of a review on Undertale Boss Battles and giving my honest thoughts on the game. Now, for those of you who might just be listening after opening this, I'm currently level 61 after 3 resets, and that's further than any recording I've made so far. The last recording I actually made was me getting to level 100 before resetting, and that's mostly because of what I'm going to be getting into this video. And let's dive into it right now. The game is painfully boring at times. I managed to pump out like 40-minute grinding session on Toriel. I've managed to sit there and just grind and grind. But really, a lot of the bosses don't have interesting patterns. You're lucky to get a unique pattern at all. And two, you're not really encouraged to fight other enemies. Why would you? The only good enemy for level 1 is Flowey. You fight Flowey until you have killed Flowey about 6 times. Then you walk past Frogget, run through the ruins. You could teleport, but we're not going to do that. You walk past Whimsum, you walk past Moldsmal, you walk past Napstablook, and you run all the way up to Toriel for level 3, and you kill her. If you aren't strong enough yet, you might grind over there a little longer, but then once you kill Toriel, there is very little reason to fight any of the enemies beyond Toriel. Instead, I've found in my own runs the most optimal thing to do to continue grinding is not run over and hunt down Undyne. That might be more interesting, but if you don't want to be gaining incredibly low amounts of XP for your effort and gold, you move on to hard mode Toriel. And you'll probably want to kill hard mode Toriel, not Papyrus. You'll probably want to kill hard mode Toriel over and over and over again until maybe level 80, level 100. Um, you could hypothetically kill Undyne sooner, but that's how long I think it took me until I could, during my first reset, to kill Undyne a lot. When the footage goes up, we can see a better estimate. And then, do you want to know what you do once you get 100? You get to do all these cool boss fights, like Evil Temmie. You finally get to enjoy the game. You get to do the Evil Temmie fight. You get to do the Egg Boss. You get to do Azrael. You get to do the Toby fight after all of them, the hard mode Sans, the Gaster fight. Again, you get to enjoy the game around the level 100 point. Before that point, you are unable to really participate in things due to not being strong enough. And sure, you could maybe get carried by another player to help speed that up, but not every person's going to constantly get a carry. And that's not, if you did, then the developers could just add that. So again, you don't get to enjoy the game until very late in. And then what happens once you beat all those bosses one time? You get their loot, you complete the fight, you could fight them for fun, but most of them are probably not as optimal as fighting hard mode Toriel or regular Undying. So since they aren't quite as optimal to fight, why would you fight them beyond that first time just to try them out or to see if their equipment's worth the trouble? You could easily go look up a guide, but sometimes it's fun to try them out. Toby's fight in particular was just a slog of a fight where you have in tons of health and just have to sit there. Most of the patterns are the same. Look at the boss rush, right? You go through and one of the enemies repeats twice for some reason. I enjoyed the boss rush as a challenge, but they don't really have a lot of replayability. You aren't encouraged to go through them again. Ideally, the boss fight should at least be really cool, but all those things take a lot of time and development, right? And to quickly clarify my opinions here, I'm aware that chances are the developers don't have time to do boss fights on the scale of, say, Undertale Dungeon Sands over and over. That being said, I'm just giving a review of the game as my personal thoughts. Maybe you disagree with me. If you do, feel free to put your opinions in the comments, and I'll definitely read them. I can tell you that. But to continue on that, the grinding is just slow. Every single reset, it is just Flowey, Flowey, six times, Flowey, hard mode Toriel, then Undying. I've gotten to the point where I can now kill Undying right when I unlock her at level 14. Oh boy, that means I can get even more grinding done. Resets unlock very little. As currently at the time of this, you don't get Underswap yet, and you don't get Underfell until reset 2. So minimal content's unlocked. You do get the Xenon character, and that's a cool one. In regards to Underfell, there isn't much new content that comes about from it. In fact, you the one reset one weapon from the Xenon character is actually better than the Asgore cutter for the most part, yeah. And the only other thing you get on resets is these fights. 8,000 gold for a really long fight of characters who dodge and would take ages to kill. You could probably kill multiple Undyings in that time and make that up. Cross. Okay, at least you get a good weapon from Cross. I don't have it equipped right now, but it's a pretty good weapon. I killed Cross. TS Papyrus, again, it's a dodge character. I've really written off dodge characters for the most part just because of how time consuming they can often be. I haven't killed Dust yet, but okay, someone who wants to sit down, they could beat these bosses, right? But look, this is the list of new content you get for a reset, right? For reset 1, until Underswap is out, you get 3 or 4 fights. Reset 2, you get Underfell. Okay. It's not too much in the way of content, but we'll proceed. Reset 3, I think is only Dusttail. I don't think you get Underplayer until like Reset 4, where you get Geno and Killer. I don't really see this as a good content system, right? This content system is essentially just pushing players to grind in order to get new aspects of the game. And then when I first unlock them, in the case of Cross or, say, Dust, I will immensely struggle with them and presumably eventually prevail. But again, it's just a slow grind. You have to gain 100 levels in some cases and spend tons of gold just to unlock a single extra fight. I understand you need endgame content, right? Personally, though, my stance would be it's better to have a game kind of finish off and be done at a point than to just add out 100 level extra reset requirement. Like that Nexus boss. While the majority of players would never strive to reach the Nexus boss, let's be honest. This boss right here requires, let's see, uh, level 800, since 700 for the resets, and then 100 for the next one. That's so much time, especially because the first reset, it takes a few hours, and then future resets are faster, with each one being a little faster, I think. Actually, I'm not sure about the first reset being all that faster, but beyond that, each reset should get a little faster. If I could choose how the game would improve, I would probably make it so that there would be multiple things per reset to really get players interested, or, right, just focus on having new content, new hurdles for players to go towards, and just have them give insane amount of progress towards the next reset. Like I really don't think the goal should be having to kill a bunch of enemies for the reset, right? I just want to progress in the game, see these new bosses, that they have cool fights. That's the other thing, right? Cool fights. Cross had new things in it. The developer clearly designed a fight with like the cross X, the blasters, the knife wave. Was it particularly complex? No. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. But ideally, these fights should have some sort of cool element that's keeping you engaged. As it stands, I would consider this a grinding simulator, and it has its merit, a grinding simulator. You can play it fairly mindlessly, like I'm doing right now, and I did in some of the other videos. I don't need to think while playing it. Sure, but that's not interesting to viewers. At that point, you're just listening to me speak. What would be the difference if I just had a black screen or maybe a GIF playing, or I chose literally any other game? That doesn't really make it appealing for the viewers. How many of you would watch me play this game with the audio off? If any of you say you would not watch this with the audio off when you're watching it right now, that sort of proves the point that any game that's interesting with the audio off would then immediately be more appealing to someone watching. This is a type of trap that I would again go to Undertale Dungeons to say it definitely fell into, where it just started resorting to tons of mindless grinding for leveling up progressively more as time went on until you need hundreds of levels for some new content. And beyond that, certain boss fights that I'll keep referring to, like the Chara fight, mostly because I haven't seen much more of the game beyond Endless and Chara, it's just another example of endless grinding. Now, another thing I'd like to bring up on the mindless grinding is look at that. Think about it like this, right? You just finished your first reset. You're incredibly strong. You've already grinded a ton. Now, for some reason, you have to kill Flowey 6 times. Why do you have to kill Flowey 6 times? Why? What's the point? What are you testing there? You're just killing an enemy you already knew you could kill. It almost feels like a waste of time to have to walk over to Flowey. Then you fight Toriel, and she's just as much of a pushover, so is hard mode Toriel. What is the point of having to fight those enemies? This is what I mean by the reset mechanic doesn't feel optimal for this game. It doesn't feel like the game's designed for resetting to feel fun. What by reset 2, I was already unstoppable for Undyne. I think I took maybe 18, 20 levels until I could solo her. And then by reset 3, level 14, I could kill Undying by standing in place, just tanking and smacking her. So, in that case, right, if I can beat the enemy that's probably one of the most optimal for grinding, maybe not the objectively most, but one of the most optimal for grinding, just by standing in place at level 14, then why do I have to do that over and over to level 100? That's not fun. How many of you, but let's give an example, right? Let's say you have a challenge where you have to find, you're on a scavenger hunt where you have to find something. Except in the scavenger hunt, it only has 5 different locations, and they're always, you have to do them in the same order. And in the scavenger hunt, right? You do them all in the same order, and they're always in the same places. And then you have to do that 1,000 times. What's the point? You already located them the first time, right? You don't need to locate them again. Maybe I just got everything horribly off track with that. Either I was trying to make it relevant, but maybe it wasn't the best. Let's carry on. Point is, repetition is kind of boring in that context. I would rather just go straight from level 100 reset 0 into some of the reset bosses. Like, why exactly is it beneficial to have to reset and grind up for them? As a player, it doesn't seem optimal. Again, resetting just doesn't seem like a fun game mechanic. And there are games that have done new game pluses in their own fashion, like Rogue Legacy. In Rogue Legacy, if you start over, uh, you get a harder version of the game. In let's see, I'm trying to think. Binding of Isaac. If you beat the game, you unlock new levels, new enemies, new items. Just by playing through the game, you get new content, right? To put it simply, resetting and repetition grinding, it should never be the thing that's carrying the game. At best, it can add to the game, or it's just a way to add more to it. Not really adding it more of, I would compare it to more of a fake way of adding length, but it serves its purpose. If you have a thing that requires you to kill 5 enemies and you bring it up to 10, oh boy, you just double the length of that. And if that doesn't overstay its length welcome in that doubled period, then you just successfully added length to your game that isn't unfun. But when you change that 5 to a 500, there's a good chance it overstayed its welcome. So I think that's my analysis of the game. For those of you who could not guess my review based off of me semi-rambling about various aspects of this game, I would probably give the game, mm, I'd place it around, let's see, if I were to give Undertale Dungeons at Chara a 7 out of 10, I'd probably give this a 5 or 6 out of 10. Yeah, around that area, maybe less. It has its strong suits. They aren't very strong, but the little interesting parts of the fight are enjoyable enough, and I get enjoyment from succeeding, right? I do enjoy the little successes I manage in this game. It's just those successes lose their value pretty quick when you can do them with your eyes closed. Like, I could, if I grab a wireless mouse, I could go up to Undyne and then go make a sandwich while killing her at level 14. That's not gameplay. That's like one of those idle clicker games. So, anyway, I'm hoping these problems get addressed, but just to recap what I brought up earlier, game development's difficult, coming up with cool combat ideas is difficult, and people often have lives that take a lot of time. Making a game like this still takes plenty of effort. Like, assuming they modeled all these houses and trees and everything, even if they like duplicate houses, right? Or duplicate trees, you still have to make the initial thing. So everything they do make in the game, everything they design, everything they balance, that still takes time. So still appreciate what you have, but yeah, I do still hope that some of these problems get addressed eventually. They're planning on making a sequel, and since that's going to be made from the ground up, I'm hoping that feedback such as mine might be taken into account and issues resolved in the sequel. Let me double check there is a sequel. I'm pretty sure they were talking about a better version of the game, so I interpret that as a sequel. If any of you have anything to say about what I've been saying, please leave a comment. If you like this sort of content, I recommend leaving a like, and if you want to see more of my videos and just support the channel, maybe subscribe. That's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.